Watu wa magazeti wanasema nimepunguza milioni 500. Hapana, si milioni 500. Nimepunguza bilioni 11.
We have cut down on unnecessary expenditure. That's why we were able to reduce the budget by 300 billion.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the backstory. If you are new here, kindly hit that subscribe button and the notification bell down below so that you can be notified when we post a new video. Now, ladies and gentlemen, a recent report by the Controller of Budget, NYAKANG'O, has stirred a lot of controversy in the country by exposing the purported extravagance by the Kenya Kwanza administration. Now, that story has been captured in today's Daily Nation and yesterday's People Daily. And in that report, NYAKANG'O sheds some light on the allocation and utilization of funds amounting to close to 3.3 billion Kenya shillings. And this has ignited a fierce debate over the fiscal or financial responsibility of the Kenya Kwanza administration. Now, this revelation is shocking because it's contrary to what President Ruto has been preaching. Remember, there was a time he called journalists to State House and he defended his administration's spending of taxpayers' money.
David is speaking the truth, and that is why we have cut down on unnecessary expenditure. That's why we were able to reduce the budget by 300 billion. That's why in this year's budget, we've been able to reduce from, instead of borrowing 1.1 trillion like the former regime, we are now going to bring it down to 600, those numbers you read, 660 something. So we are responsible. Okay. You know, you're telling me you increased 90 million that was borrowed by State House. You know, yes. You know what used to happen? The office of the deputy president had been shut. You know, so if you have to reinstate the operations of the office of the deputy president, when I was there, you know what happened. You know, the office was. I was paying from my own pocket fuel for my cars. I was paying for tea in my office. I was paying for the allowances for my drivers and everybody. It was not fair. But you see, I respect my deputy. I want my deputy to run his show. And I want my deputy to work in an office that works.
Now, this was during State House interview by several media houses. The same President Ruto, while on a campaign tour or what he now calls development tour in Taita Taveta, he said he had cut down government expenditure from 500 billion to 10 billion.
Watu wa magazeti wanasema nimepunguza milioni 500. Hapana, si milioni 500. Nimepunguza bilioni 11. Ya wale wote wanaosafiri kwenda sijui conference, wanaenda sijui workshop, wanaenda sijui benchmarking, wanaenda sijui kufanya nini. Mambo ambayo hayana faida kwa wananchi wa Kenya. Tumesema safari itagharimiwa na wananchi wa Kenya, iwe ni safari italeta pesa, italeta waegezaji ama ilete manufaa kwa wananchi wa Kenya. Kama wewe unaenda kufanya kuzurura, ama wewe unaenda sokoni kwenda kununua marinda ama kwenda kununua jeans ama kwenda kununua viatu, wewe tafuta pesa yako, wewe uende ufanye hiyo kazi. Kapunguza by 50% pesa ya judiciary, 50% pesa ya legislature, 50% pesa ya executive, ya mambo ya travel. Ndio tuhakikishe ya kwamba hawa wananchi tunapunguza budget yetu, tusiwe tunakopa pesa ambayo inatumika kwa njia ambayo haifai.
Now, what is making Kenyans mad about this or in this report is the fact that the Kenya Kwanza administration or Ruto's government circumvented legal process that is used in accessing such funds under the pretense that this was kind of an emergency, and they received this money, and this money was subsequently used to finance extravagant projects and procurements. So among the expenditures which has been highlighted in the report is a significant allocation of 300 million Kenya shillings for the purchase of new vehicles. in addition to a staggering 700 million Kenya shillings earmarked for the construction of a presidential dais. The report further points to the transfer of funds to East African Cabinet Secretary, purportedly for the procurement of luxury items, including vehicles. So this raises a lot of questions whereby Kenyans are asking, what are the priorities of the Kenya Kwanza administration? If you look keenly, from the time the Kenya Kwanza administration came in, it's like they stopped spending on infrastructural development. Look at the roads that were done during President Uhuru's regime. Look at roads that were initiated during President Uhuru's regime. They were literally stopped. And the main issue here that the Kenya Kwanza administration talked about was the fact that they found empty coffers and they had no money for development. Now, this report is coming at a time when the Cabinet Secretary, Treasury, Njogora Ndung'u, has come up with a budget, a tentative budget for the year 2024-2025 financial year. And what is catching our eye is the fact that in that budget, the Kenya Kwanza administration has drawn a budget of 4.2 trillion expenditure plan for the year 2024-2025. And that budget allocates the office of the president a whopping 352 billion shillings. So if you look at the budget, if you look at that budget estimates, look at what has been allocated to the office of the president vis-a-vis what has been allocated to the county governments. It's like the office of the president is spending much more than what has been allocated to 47 counties together, because 47 counties are getting around 392 billion shillings compared to Ruto's, that is the office of the president, which is getting 342 billion, a difference of like around 50 something billion shillings. Now the question is, what is the priority of the Kenya Kwanza administration? Are they going to use this money for personal emoluments or for development? Because for the last 2 years, just as I've said, there has been no tangible development that has happened within the Kenya Kwanza administration. The only thing that you can talk about is the fact that they've been launching and relaunching projects that were done by the by President Uhuru's regime. Look at the housing projects that they have been launching. The Nakuru one was done and completed during their regime, but it was launched by them. The housing projects that they are boasting of, or the Kenya Kwanza administration is boasting of, is funded under a levy which they are collecting money from Kenyans. So these are the money which is collected, which should go for development. Where is it going to? And then they have also borrowed some money from international lenders. And if you look at the budget, money which is borrowed outside the country from international lenders should go to development. It should not go to the current expenditure. So where has that money gone to? Where have they taken that money to? And that is a question that the Kenya Kwanza administration need to answer Kenyans on. Now, if you go back to the same report, you'll find that Margaret NYAKANG'O refused to append her signature for the release of that money. So the Kenya Kwanza administration devised a strategy of now getting that money unlawfully. And you'd want to ask yourself, is that why NYAKANG'O was arrested? Because if you remember, there was that time that after this Kenya Kwanza administration came into power, after some time, NYAKANG'O was arrested, taken to KRA headquarters, and then later transferred all the way to Mombasa for a case that I think happened almost 4 or 5 years ago. So it's like they were reviving this case so as to use it to frustrate NYAKANG'O, just because she had refused. Apparently, maybe it's because she had refused to sign some of these millions and billions that the Kenya Kwanza administration wanted to use for their own selfish interests. And then during that arrest, they accused NYAKANG'O of a case which happened some years ago. And my thinking was that they were trying to put a lot of pressure and fear in NYAKANG'O so as to give in to their demands. And then they came up with very dubious kind of charges whereby they talked of NYAKANG'O approving some expenditure during Uhuru Kenyatta's regime. But if you analyze all this, you're able to tell that maybe this was the reason as to why NYAKANG'O was being frustrated. So this still goes back to, and you want to ask yourself that if we are going this way, then how much money are we going to lose in terms of expenditure by the extravagant expenditure by the Kenya Kwanza administration? And whose role is it to keep the Kenya Kwanza administration in check? I think NYAKANG'O has done her job very well, which is commendable. I think NYAKANG'O and Omtata and Raila, those are the guys who are now trying to keep this administration in check. But the institution that is letting Kenyans down is the legislature. I think the legislature and EAC are letting Kenyans down. Parliament has a watchdog role over the executive. But if you look at how Parliament has been behaving, it's like they are like a conveyor belt. They're told to do this without even questioning. They pass legislation, they come up with bills without even questioning, without debating, without asking questions. So some of these issues that have been highlighted by NYAKANG'O, I think they need to summon the CS Treasury and any other person who is concerned along that chain to explain to Kenyans why they had to spend such an amount of money at a time when Kenya is struggling to raise revenue. Kenyans are struggling to make ends meet. Kenyans are struggling to even get basic needs. At a time when the Kenya Kwanza administration is talking about getting money to channel to housing, would that money have been channeled to other important areas like healthcare? Doctors are going without pay. There are no medication in hospitals. That money should have been, because State House as it was left by the former president is already luxurious. Then why would you spend like $1 billion to do that? So Parliament should rise up to the occasion and hold the Kenya Kwanza administration accountable, or else we are in for a very tough time and a tough ride going forward, ladies and gentlemen. So then the second issue is that William Ruto, as the president, should walk the talk. There is no need of the president talking about cutting down on the expenditure when he goes to public rallies, when he talks to Kenyans during maybe other functions. But when it comes to real spending, the office of the president spends more than any other department or ministry in his government. So it should walk the talk by leading in cutting down on expenditure, cutting down on his travels, like campaigns, traveling outside the country, and on those personal emoluments. I think if we are to improve our economy, those are some of the things that the Kenya Kwanza administration needs to do. Parliament should rise up to the occasion, hold the Kenya Kwanza administration accountable. Then the third one is the opposition should also rise up to the occasion and help Kenyans unearth some of the things that are happening in the Kenya Kwanza administration. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it from us today. If you are new here, kindly hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down below so that you can be notified when we post a new video. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, that is it from us, and goodbye.